Welcome to Single Fathers Today. I'm your host, Mark Hill. This podcast is basically geared towards single fathers who are going through a divorce, who have been through a divorce, and or is going through the process of it and trying to figure out what are the next steps they need to do with life, being with your kids and raising your kids to be the best individual they can and giving that loving, nurturing foundation in life. This particular show that I want to go through is something that I happened to see on, it started out on a YouTube video. And normally I don't mention other individuals that I see on YouTube. I'll watch them and look at some of their commentary and things. And I will mention two names. It'll be free advertisement for them, but I don't care. I like watching their shows. If you ever get a chance and you're on YouTube, The Advise Show, I believe the gentleman's out of Texas, and he has some good commentary over there. The other one, he's been getting a lot of flack. I think he is a good guy. I believe he speaks to truth on a lot of things, and if you've heard of him, you will know. And hopefully he won't, hopefully he'll appreciate what I'm saying. And his name is Tommy Sotomayor. For those who have, never heard of him, you need to look at some of the stuff that he says. Wonderful guy. He is out on the West Coast, and I would say probably 95% of the things that he says, I have to go along with. I believe in it. It may alienate me with some individuals, but from a single father standpoint, doing what's best for your kids, being a good, parent, steward, for your kids, a lot of things that he says rings true. And his main theme is, looking at within the African American society as far as parenting your kids and being a good steward to the kids, and trying to raise them up to be good people. So, if I alienate some listeners or piss some listeners off, I would say I apologize, but I can't, because the purpose of this show is from a father standpoint, a single father standpoint. For those that's been listening for a while, you guys already know the story. For the new listeners that are coming in, I am a single dad, African-American male. Some people say, well, you won custody. It's not an issue of winning custody. I was awarded custody of my daughters. I will not badmouth their mother. I will say that she's a wonderful person. She had a couple of, she had a misstep in life. And, regardless if you can say that I couldn't handle it or she couldn't handle it, whatever the case may be, my daughters love her. I thank her for blessing me with 3 beautiful daughters, 3 smart and intelligent daughters. I will always be thankful for that. For nurturing them, carrying them, and bringing them to where they're, bringing them to the point where, I was able to step in, during that particular time period and bring my daughters to where they're at right now. Beautiful, loving, and thriving. So, going through that particular part, I mentioned, Mr. Sotomayor for one particular reason. I am an advocate for him. I like what he says. He speaks the truth. And he showed a video of one particular case. And if you go, I don't have a Facebook page up yet or a website up yet, but I will definitely, if I can find the link, if it's still online through Sotomayor's site, I will tweet it out. There was a particular case where there was a family, man and woman. I don't believe they're married. I believe they were just dating and they had a kid, or they could have been married and the relationship fell apart. And the woman, what she wanted, she was trying to argue for full custody of the kids. Basically, she wanted to terminate the husband's right, or the male's right to his kid. And there was a son that was involved, and went before the judge, and the judge was trying to explain the case. And from the judge's standpoint, he's trying to foster a relationship with the mother and the father, basically saying you need both people in their lives because it took two of you to make that child, and it's going to take two of you to continue that child going forward. If you're a male that has custody of your kids right now, you know how difficult it is being the mommy and the daddy. It's a very difficult job to do. Now, as far as men go, we're just seeing it now. Women have seen it for eons. You know, if you go back, you can go back to any decade, any generation, any millennial, because when dads were done, they were done. They left the kids and said, here, you have them, I'm out. And then when the kid gets better or, grows up and becomes popular or famous or whatever, then the dad wants to come weasel his way back in. Nowadays, things are different. Fathers are stepping in. They're doing what they need to do. And you guys are now seeing how difficult it is. In this particular case, what the woman was wanting to do was push the case that she didn't want to have the father involved in the kid's life whatsoever, but she wanted the child support, she wanted the alimony, and she didn't want him to have any contact with the kid whatsoever. Now, what came about from that was the judge basically says, I'm awarding joint custody. Now, leading into this, again, I may alienate some people listening to the show. The woman was African American. That's neither here nor there because I've heard stories where it's been black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is the woman was just incensed. She was just livid. She was just in a very visceral state. And instead of her thinking about the most important thing, which was her kid, her child, she wanted to push the point to the judge that this isn't proper. Now, if you've done certain things in your life and you've done things that's been bad in your life, you will have a moment. Some people will have, let me rephrase that. Some people will have a moment in life where you will come back and say, you know what? I screwed up. I did this. I did that. Let me change my way of thinking. Let me change my way of life to do what's right. And again, for those that have listened to the show before, I kind of interject my life experiences into my shows. So I will say I've done some things that I'm not too thrilled about, not too happy about, things that individuals might have said there's no way in hell that Mark is going to be able to correct this or do better. I can sit here and say I have 3 daughters. 2 are going to graduate from college next year. 1 is going to be a sophomore this year. I think I did something right. I think that if I made mistakes in the past, I corrected them because I looked at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture, which should be with any individual, be it a male or a female, going through a divorce or whatever, you've made children, you owe it to them because those kids are not asked to come into this world. But the thing is, they're here. You have to give them every opportunity to be able to succeed and thrive and go forward in their life. So you have to do that. Now, on a funny note, my kids will probably sit there and say, yeah, Dad, okay, where's my brand new cars? Sorry, girls, you don't get them yet. But in this particular case, and again, I will if it's still online, because I know that they've been YouTube's been harassing Mr. Sotomayor for a while, and if I can still get a hold of it, or I can find it through another link to show this particular clip, is that the judge had awarded joint custody to both parents, and the mother was just incensed. She was just livid, and the judge had warned her and said, "Ma'am, you need to be quiet. If you're not quiet, I'm going to put you in contempt." He continues on. She gets loud again. He gives her 24 hours in jail. Thinking that would shut her up, she comes up again. He continues on. He comes up and he's trying to explain the child needs both parents in their lives. She comes up again, stirring up more problems. He gives her another 24 hours. And it continues on. And I think after he got to 36 hours, I think in the video it shows in the end it was her brother that stood up as the bailiff came in to reprimand the mother. The brother stood up to try to tell. Initially, it was the brother was trying to tell the sister, calm down, but he made the fatal mistake. He touched a deputy. Boom, you're gone. Then I think it was a sister or an aunt or someone, they stood up and tried to jump in. Boom, you're gone. Next thing you see the judge leave, and then other deputies are coming in, and they're basically rounding everybody up. The father, meantime, is on the other side sitting back and saying, I ain't had nothing to do with this. And the reason for this, when you look at this video, and again, I'm hopefully I can see it on there, and I can be able to repost it, because I think it's something that needs to be seen. It needs to be said and shown for those fathers that are out there, because I know that there are guys out there that live through this, that have seen the situation, that have been through this situation. There is no cookie cutter divorce. Every divorce is different. Every divorce it's unique in its own particular way. And you have to be able to know that you are not the only one out there. And that was the biggest thing that I came across. Now, again, I said all those things about my children's mother, or my kid's mother, in the beginning of the show. That stands true. There are other things that went on within that time period that I will not share on this show, but it's there. It's in public record if you know where to look. So I again, I thank her for what she did in bringing, there was a time when we were in love. There was a time when we had a relationship, because you never get into a relationship with someone that you don't love. I wholeheartedly believe you don't get involved with someone that you don't love. You don't bring kids into this world with someone that you don't love, but there's individuals that do. But in my particular case, I was in love with the individual I was with. That's why I brought those 3 kids into the world. And I had an obligation to those 3 individuals. When things went bad between myself and their mother, I stepped up to the plate and said, I need to go above and beyond to be the best dad that I can for those kids. I'm not saying the best dad in the world, but the best dad that I can be for my kids. And in this particular case on this video, I don't know the man. I don't know the background of the individual, but what I saw in that courtroom through the court video was a woman that had visceral anger in her heart, visceral anger. And you can even see her attorney was trying to calm her down. And eventually got to the point where the attorney was just like, the hell, I can't deal with this. I can't do this. Send her off. And they took her to jail, took the brother to jail, and I believe it was the aunt or sister took her out to jail as well. And whatever that was that they were trying to angle with was just thrown out the window. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if you're a dad and you're going through the divorce process or going through a custody process, even if you're not married, but you're going through a custody process, you have to make sure you have yourself in a certain mind space, in a certain frame to be the best you can for those kids. Because again, You have some women that will say, hey, look, I want the best for the kids. We can do shared custody, so on and so forth. You will also have some women that will say, I've had a kid with this guy. I want as much as I can get from him. If he doesn't see the kids, so be it. Because, and you have women that will have that philosophy, that mindset that will say, these are mine. I carried them for 9 months. I gave birth to them and they're mine. Well, again, I try to keep it kind of nice on this show, but I'm sorry, darling. I had to bone you to make those kids. Because if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be here. So I have some obligation. I have some responsibility for this kid. And I'm not talking about, well, yes, I laid down, I made this kid with you. Now you owe me the money. No, I have an influence on those kids because part of myself is within those kids. And I should have some say in what goes on in these kids' lives, where they're at, where they're going, where they're going to be at in life. And the biggest thing, and as you know, and I've been away from the show for a while, and looking at some different things in life. But the one thing when I talk to people that have listened to the show, and what they've told me is, yeah, man, I listened to your show, and she doesn't get it. I love my kids. I want to be involved in my kids. I may not be in love with her, but I love my kids. And because of the way the court system is right now, I can't have as much access to my kids as I used to. I'm going from seeing my kids 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, to 1 day during the week, every other weekend, 2 weeks in the summer. How is that fair? And it's not. And I've had people tell me the laws need to be changed. And I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a psychologist, but I can tell you this. Yes, the laws need to be changed because nowadays you have guys that want to be with their kids, love their kids. The way that dads used to be, say in the 60s and the 70s and the early 80s, that has changed because those kids that grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they knew how much it sucked when dad wasn't there. If you ever watch the Austin Powers movies, there's a song that he used to sing, Daddy Wasn't There. I used to play that for my kids, Daddy Wasn't There. And those individuals now, they want, as they have their kids, they want to be there. So you guys have to do what needs to be done to change these rules and change these laws because everything that we used to know 20, 30 years ago have changed completely. And you guys have to be able to fight for those kids because if you listen to the show, the one show I talked about being the bad guy, if you're not there in those kids, in your kids' lives, it will take those kids down a very dark path. And if you haven't listened to that show, please go back and listen to that show. It's podcast number 5, I think it is. 4 or 5. Both of them are good anyway. So you definitely want to follow through on that. And again, I will take this story as I'm wrapping up. I will take this story and I will post it on my YouTube account. My Twitter account. Sorry, I don't have a YouTube yet. I'll put it on my Twitter account. And again, like I said, if you want to see the shows, the two individuals that I watch for a lot of these shows is the Advice Show that's out of Texas. And again, I give props and shout outs to Mr. Tommy Sotomayor. There's a lot of people that don't like him. I will sit there and say I am a fan of him. He speaks a lot of truth. And if you are open to a lot of things and keep an open mind and you look at society today, especially when it comes to the father trying to be there for their kids and raising their kids, he's doing the same thing. I give shouts out to him and give props to him as well. I will see if I can find that link and I will put that link on my Twitter account. And at the end of that, at the end of this time, as I'm wrapping up here, I just want to tell you guys, hang in there. Fathers, keep fighting for what you believe in and hang in there and stay strong. This is your host, Mark Hill. If you have any questions or comments, send it to me at singlefatherstoday@gmail.com. And the Twitter account that I will have put online is Twitter @singlefatherstoday. So hang in there and be strong.